This in from NHL insider Frank Saravalli of TSN, a rather dire take on the Edmonton Oilers situation, especially in regards to Milan Lucic's future with the team. Speaking to Alan Lowertide Mitchell on TSN 1260 on Friday, Saravalli said, "I'm concerned about the Milan Lucic situation. I mean, you talk about Erik Karlsson and what a mess that has been in Ottawa, and you talk about Jeff Skinner and the fact that he hasn't been traded from Carolina, and Justin and Falk and some other guys where you feel like the can has been kicked so far down the road. I don't think Milan Lucic is in all that different of a category when you consider what he's gone through, and really the position the Oilers are in. It's almost untenable." This is just the first part of Saravalli's extended take on the Lucic situation. I'll go through Saravalli's points here one by one, as he makes a number of them. To start, I have to give some credit to Saravalli for stirring up things. I don't agree with many of his points here, but he gets marks for sparking controversy, which is all part of the fun and reality of NHL hockey talk. On this initial point, Saravalli comparing the Lucic situation to the Karlsson situation makes little or no sense. They are not at all in the same category. The Karlsson situation is indeed untenable. It's a fiasco. It's shaping up as something of a disaster for the Ottawa franchise. The Lucic situation is far from it for him and for the Oilers. Milan Lucic speaks to the media at Rogers Place following the conclusion of the Edmonton Oilers' 2017-2018 NHL. David Bloom, post-media Karlsson has made it clear he wants a trade, and there's also been a major, bizarre and upsetting incident between him and his wife and another player and that player's wife, the kind of interpersonal blow-up missing from the Lucic situation. Lucic's personal life is said to be part of the equation in Edmonton, but his agent Jerry Johansson has made it clear in no uncertain terms that Lucic is coming back to the Oilers. As Johansson told the Journal's Jim Matheson, "What's going on with Milan? Absolutely nothing. Milan had a bad year, the team had a bad year. He's coming back to play for the Edmonton Oilers. That's not exactly a fancy storyline, but that's what it is. I have no idea how this story got out there. I expect Milan to have a good year and the Oilers to have a good year. 100% he's coming back, that's his plan. He's got a no-move clause." Let's move on to Saravalli's next point, which was, "My understanding is, from what we reported weeks ago, is that Milan Lucic is open to finding a new home somewhere else. He's the one who holds a lot of these cards with the no-trade clause, the situation that he holds there, and my understanding is that helps interested and willing to go to a new destination, particularly if he can get to a US market." Here's what Johansson told Matheson about Lucic asking for a trade. "Milan didn't ask for a trade, and Peter GM Chiarelli 100% has not come to us about moving Milan. If he wants to get out from under the contract, he has to talk to us. I accept there might well be a bit of spin here from Johansson, but the only really important thing in the agent's message is his emphatic insistence that Lucic is coming back to Edmonton. So while Karlsson has made it evident he's unhappy and wants out of Ottawa, I have no idea if Skinner and Falk want out of Carolina. The opposite message is coming from the Lucic camp." Saravalli continued on to explore with Mitchell the possibility of Lucic getting traded. Now the question is if the Oilers can somehow find a way to do that, and is there a push from any other teams to try and make a move like that? Now that we've gotten past free agency, it almost seems like the urgency kind of falls off a cliff once you've got to July 2nd. So what happens in that situation? How do you fill the hole on D for the Oilers? I just can't imagine going into next with all the issues they had to close out last, more or less, and Peter Chiarelli basically saying, "Well, it's up to you guys to figure it out." I mean, that's not really how it works. It's up to the manager to figure out a solution and find a way to make this team better. Because this team, on paper at least, certainly isn't better. Edmonton Oilers Milan Lucic 27 with Calgary Flames goalie Mike Smith 41 in Calgary on Saturday, March 31, 2018. Larry McDougall, the Canadian press: "It would have been fine indeed for the Oilers to make more and better moves in recent weeks, but I haven't seen any suggestions in the realm of the palatable about how Chiarelli could have greatly improved the squad." Saravalli and others may wish that Chiarelli had moved Lucic and traded for a top winger and a top D-man, but was any of that remotely possible? Only if the Oilers gave up Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, or Oscar Klefbom, and or their 9th overall pick in the draft that was used to take Evan Bouchard. Would it have been wise to make such moves, or was it smarter to see if injured players like Andrej Sekera, Clefbaum and Cam Talbot can bounce back, and if forwards like Jesse Puljujarvi, Ryan Strome, Jujakera, Drake Kagiola, Kayla Yamamoto and Tairati might improve? Was it also not a good plan to see if coach Todd McClellan might be able to devise a better game plan with his new group of assistant coaches? As for his work at the trade deadline, Chiarelli did add useful forwards in Tobias Rieder and Kyle Brodziak, and he did so on relatively cheap contracts. It's not like he sat on his hands and accomplished not one thing. He's given McClellan a few more tools to work with. Seravalli finally suggested that to move Lucic, the Oilers might have to add a sweetener, a small one, he said. Let's be honest too, the Oilers don't have a lot of sweeteners to sending around. They don't have a treasure trove of candy to be handing out. This isn't Halloween. It was the hesitancy to add the right sweetener that might be holding up a deal, Seravalli suggested. Part of it too is probably some stubbornness on the Oilers' part, saying, well, wait a second, why do we need to add this, getting hung up on how exactly much of a sweetener there would need to be, given that Help's not that far removed from a productive to start his career in Edmonton. So I think it's one of those really tough situations. I don't think there is any question in my mind that the Oilers are a better team without him. Seravalli then made the case that the Oilers had decided they were best off to move out Taylor Hall and Jordan Eberle, so the same should now be done with Lucic, whatever it takes in order to make it happen. I don't see why Milan Lucic would be any different. Seravalli's line of thinking again breaks down here. Is not one of the biggest criticisms of Chiarelli that he made a mistake in moving out Taylor Hall and Jordan Eberle and got too little in return? If these moves were indeed mistakes, why would Chiarelli want to now make a similar mistake and pay too high a price to move out Lucic? And what is the urgency in such a move again? Johansson has made it crystal clear that Lucic is willing to come back to Edmonton and prove himself to be a good player again. If other NHL teams are only willing to take on Lucic if the Oilers give up a high draft pick or an excellent prospect or a good player, why not instead just see how Lucic does when he gets back to Edmonton? He could end up playing well and the entire matter will blow over. Or he could end up playing well and improving his trade value. At worst, he'll likely play at the same level, which would make him an okay two-way third-line winger and superior enforcer, so a player with some value to the Oilers even if he isn't earning his $6 million paycheck. In the end, I don't quite get where Seravalli is coming from. He seems to be trying to ramp up the pressure to trade Lucic by comparing his situation to the Carlson fiasco and saying the Oilers should be willing to pay a high price to solve this so-called untenable situation. But this situation isn't untenable. It's tenable. And moving Lucic at a loss doesn't sound like sharp management of player assets. All due respect to Seravalli, it sounds like bad advice. Or am I missing something here? At the cult staples, Colbin Hansen, Stafford Winnickham. Maybe Oilers better off not bringing in another Vemkurdy. Strome back on board with new $3.1 million per deal. Staples, the rise and fall of Tyler Ennis, new Leafs player Kurdy, Edmonton roster taking shape. Staples, Nick Shaw, Anthony Duclair players of interest to cap-strapped Oilers. Staples, Jesse Puljujarvi is not Nail Yakupov. Be patient.